Remember kaleidoscopes? If you grew up in the 80s like me, then you probably passed the time waiting on your mom to finish shopping by looking through these things in the toys section of the store. Playing this game feels like you're inside a kaleidoscope. Visually, I've never experienced anything like it. Pretty much every review and gameplay video on YouTube describes the game as trippy or psychedelic. And even though those terms could easily be seen as trite and overused, they describe the aesthetics of this game perfectly. Hello everyone, I'm Midlife Maestro, and today I want to talk about Ultros. Ultros is a Metroidvania-style game with roguelite elements. Developed by Haddock and published by Kepler Interactive, it was released for Mac OS, PS4 and PS5, and PC on February 13, 2024. Your character is a space traveler, sometimes referred to as Huntress, who wakes up aboard a spaceship called Sarcophagus. Your goal is to stop the demon Ultros from awakening. A sarcophagus is a tomb, so I'm not sure that the Huntress isn't already dead. It's also called a cosmic uterus, so perhaps she's waiting to be born. Well, before birth, we're in a state of not really being alive, and after death, we clearly aren't either, so maybe it's one and the same. And these are themes presented over and over during the game. Birth, death, life, karma, and interconnectivity with other living things. You could easily interpret the system of planting the right seeds in the right place to grow plants that bear fruit and also assist in traversal as a nod to environmentalism. Despite all this, it's not a preachy game. However, it's undeniable that respecting the cycle of life and death is an important theme. Don't trip, man. If you don't want to think too much about these heavy things, you don't have to. I do think, though, that in order to enjoy the game in a way the devs intended, you'll have to respect its thematic elements. If you don't know what to expect, you're lulled into a sense of security that this is a Metroidvania, and you'll explore the map, defeat enemies, gain skills and power-ups so that you can traverse farther and can kill stronger enemies. And while this is true, you also have to die and come back to life, losing some of your skills in the process. After defeating certain bosses, you'll wake up in the beginning area with only the clothes on your back. You find your weapon again soon after, but some skills will require perhaps a bit of grinding to reattain. Crude description here, but you have a backpack thing that has a tail that gives you skills like a double jump. It also allows you to fly if you can charge it in water and to dig things up. I hate to say it, but the controls to use this and for other mechanics aren't good. They felt clunky. It's a cool idea, but not a fully realized one. The game wants you to take advantage of its combat system. If you just button mash and spam and kill an enemy, you get the equivalent of roadkill to eat. Since what you eat affects your stats and the ability to upgrade, eating roadkill is not going to help you that much. If you use a variety of attacks to take down an enemy, you get better quality meat, leading to less indigestion and better stat increase. I like this. Your combat feels more refined when you're heavily encouraged to learn the mechanics of multiple attacks. It's got roguelike elements, but it's not a roguelike. For example, you don't lose your skills each time you die, but after each boss. Levels are not procedurally generated, the map doesn't change. The bosses don't come back to life. If you get low on health, you rest at checkpoints in order to reset your health and to upgrade. The upgrades are mostly temporary, as they'll go away at the beginning of each cycle, hence the rogue comparisons. But you can get items that allow you to lock in skills, so you don't have to beat them up again. If you don't like the skills you locked in, not to worry. You can just unlock the unwanted skill and put the lock on the skill you like. There is a fast travel option between checkpoints at the end of the game, but boy does the game make you work for it. Since it's at the end of the game when you can do that, I won't get into specifics. Suffice to say, you will work hard to get all the checkpoints connected. Combat challenge in the game is on the easy side, with bosses that can be taken down handily in just a couple of minutes. It's not always clear how you need to attack a boss in order to take it down. For example, one particular boss took me several minutes to figure out because I didn't realize you need to juggle enemies to smack back at it. The puzzles are unique, but I found them to be frustrating, mostly because of the controls. They aren't reliable enough to enjoy, for example, and bear with me here, batting a ball up in the air so that it lands where you want it to, and then you stick it ahead of the machine and get transported to where the ball is as a means of traversal. Yeah, really, it's exactly like that. Or you smack a bowling ball 3 times to get it to the color you want, and then you lob it at the head of a creature and smack the creature around, all while some other creature is trying to do the same thing to the same ball. The controls were way too clunky for this to be enjoyable. I think it's likely the devs were more focused on atmosphere than they were on gameplay. They succeeded here. While playing, I felt lonely, homesick, and a little dejected. I could imagine myself in the game doing my best to complete the requested tasks, only to find myself at square one after each success. Artistically, Ultros is stunning, with beautiful graphics that unfortunately lack extensive resolution options. The highest resolution currently allowed is 1920 by 1080. This isn't a deal breaker, but it's very important to some players. Music is also an integral part of the atmosphere. The composer, Oscar Ridelius, traveled to Peru to record indigenous instrumentalists and ambient sounds of the rainforest, and then he altered them to create an otherworldly soundtrack that is sometimes a gut punch of melancholy. The music and visuals were paired to perfection. The exploration experience can be frustrating due to the game's unforgiving nature. Mistakes in planting seeds or losing key abilities may result in being locked out of areas, contributing to a sense of mistrust. You have to obtain an ability that's late in the game in order to remove a plant and place the correct seed, so these mistakes can keep you locked out of an area for quite a while. Even though I didn't find the game to be particularly difficult, it doesn't hold your hand at all. There's no description for the seeds you plant, for example, and it would be wise to take notes on the properties of each plant so you can choose the correct ones. Also, the map doesn't allow for customization, so you can't mark parts of the map for later exploration. It took me about 15 hours to complete the game, but I take my time and I think most people finish games faster than I do. I love the ending I got, and it wasn't even the good one. The game's true ending would have added a few more hours of tedious work that, for now, I'm not willing to do. I watched the so-called true ending on YouTube, and it is quite good, so I might just go back and do it after all. My rule of thumb for assessing value of a game is using a price point of $1 per hour of gameplay to 100% a game. At $25 on Steam, it's a little more expensive than that. At the time of this review, there's no New Game Plus or DLC, so I doubt many people will want to replay it for very long. In the end, Ultros is a cool experience. The graphics, sound, and the feelings they evoke effectively draw emotions like a longing to get back home. The story isn't clear, but I don't expect crystal clear storytelling in games. The most impactful pieces of art require work to understand. The game does suffer in its mechanics, which causes more frustration than it should. It's also a little too expensive for the amount of hours of gameplay that it offers. And now for the Maestro Mark. I score games on 5 categories with 2 points possible for each. Narrative, 2. The story's well done, a bit obscure, and stays true to itself throughout the game. Graphics, 1.5. It's gorgeous, but the lack of resolution options is a definite negative. Gameplay and mechanics, 0.5. This is by far the weakest part of the game. Music and sound, 2. I need to hear more of Ridelius' work. Value and replayability, 1. It's a little too expensive for the amount of gameplay that it offers. A free DLC or a New Game Plus option would increase the score. Ultros gets a Maestro Mark of 7, which means I think you might like it. If a trippy, psychedelic Metroidvania that goes off the beaten path appeals to you, give it a try. So what do you think? Have you played the game? Which parts did I get right or wrong? Let me know in the comments. See you around!